What is happening, everyone? My name is Phil with Think Make Do, and I'm super excited for this episode today because we are finally working on something that this workspace has needed for a long time, and that is a real dust collection system. Now, we've been getting by with a dust filter I made a long time ago, this thing right here, but this really only filters ambient air and doesn't actually get all the dust and the sawdust that is created by all of our woodworking machines here in this workshop. So, I've been scouring the internet and I finally got this Central Machinery 2 horsepower, I think 1150 CFM, cubic feet per minute in terms of air volume, dust collection system for $100. Somebody was selling on Craigslist. Normally, I think this is $250 or $279, something like that. $100 is a steal for a barely used, if used at all, 2 horsepower system. Now, there's a lot of dust collection systems out there that you can buy, but I'll tell you why at least I got this one. This one is cheap, first of all. It has high CFM. A lot of times you'll get a 1 horsepower system, maybe 400 to 500 CFM, and that might be good enough for a shop. That's actually probably good enough for this shop, but I like to do things a little overboard, and this is gonna last me a lot longer, and it's going to be able to handle a couple more tools than a normal home garage might need. So if you're a home garage guy, maybe you just have a table saw and a hacksaw and that's it, maybe a 500 CFM will work. I've got an extra planer that we just bought. I've got the table saw, the hacksaw, all of our sanders. We try to do some extra stuff around here. So the 2 horsepower I think is where it's at. Now, this is a fully integrated system. We're actually not going to use this table and stand thing that it came on. And we're also going to start modifying this pretty heavily to be a more professional, or I guess you could call it stage 2 type system. Now, this is modeled very much after another YouTuber named, I think, Patriot DIY. They have a great YouTube channel. You should check them out. We'll put their description link below. And they are the inspiration for this type of dust collection system. So they're using the same 2 horsepower fan system. We're going to upgrade what comes stock with this, which is a bag filter, which I think is 10 micron. So a lot of stuff is going to get through this bag. And this has a plastic kind of catch thing for all the debris. What we are going to do is we're going to add a cyclone separator here, and that will allow us to then have a greater collection of wood chips and smaller sawdust to fall into the bag. And we're replacing this bag with something called, well, it's just a food grade or a sealed canister, and we're going to make it so we can remove that canister, take it outside and dump it, and then put it back and reseal it pretty easily with minimal effort. So this can be emptied and changed pretty seamlessly. And then on top, we're going to get rid of this bag, and we're going to go to a MERV 10 or a MERV 15 pleated filter, which means it's going to have a giant kind of, I don't know, metal and paper filter that goes down to 1 micron, which will be much better for our air quality, and it'll allow us to move air faster. So when you think about air filtration systems, the amount of power your fan has to suck in, the filtration system on the back end has to be able to push out, or else you're going to have parasitic loss, or not parasitic loss, you're going to have loss of capacity. And so with a paper filter, we're going to get better filtration to a smaller micron, so better for your lungs, and you're going to get more volume or throughput because you're going to be able to have a much taller filter essentially, and that's going to get strapped onto the top. So I do think it might be worth it real quick to just go over a lot of the basic supplies you'll need for I guess a stationary duct system for air collection. Now, we're using something called sewer and drain piping, and that's it's just a cheaper type of pipe that you can get in any local hardware store like a Home Depot or a Lowe's. And for our system, 4-inch is enough for the air volume. But if you have a larger dust collection system that's like 2.5 horsepower, 3 horsepower, where it goes up in CFM, you can switch to 5 or you can switch to 6-inch. And SND means sewer and drain. So at your local hardware store, just go to the section where there are sewer and drain pipes and pick your size. A lot of times you'll see dust collection systems with metal. Those are a lot more expensive per foot to purchase. These 10-foot pipes are $20, so I've got $60 worth of piping here. And these connectors in plastic are also decently cheap, maybe like $6 to $8 for each one of these larger connectors. That means my overall cost on kind of the ducting work is going to be like $180. That's pretty good for your own do-it-yourself dust collection system. The minute you get into metal, the metal is going to cost like $8 a foot, something ridiculous where you just, I don't know, unless you're a commercial system, you probably don't need the metal. I think there's something to do with like static electricity that builds up on the plastic, but we'll try and figure out how to ground them and get rid of that problem. I don't actually know how to get rid of the problem. Maybe it just won't be a big problem just because we're not that big of a shop. But anyway, that is our 4-inch pipe. These are 10-foot sections. I have these Y elbows, and this helps me separate off power. The reason why you need the Ys and not your kind of Tetris piece with 90s is because you want to help prevent restriction of airflow. So if all the airflow is going this way, if you have a 90 elbow here, the air coming up has to make a hard bend. That creates resistance and that reduces overall efficiency. When you have a Y elbow, it comes in at a 45-degree angle and takes less effort to bend and meet the airflow, and therefore it has less resistance, so this makes everything more smooth. Same thing for anywhere where I'm going to make a hard right turn, right? So imagine I have the horizontal plane where all the ducting goes and I'm dropping down to one section. I'm going to use these 45 elbows, but I'm going to use 2 of them, right? And that's going to help me make a 45 and a 45, and that creates less air resistance wherever I need to turn. So this will be kind of prevalent throughout. Whenever there's a turn, there's a 45. Now there's flexible cable as well. This one's a little bent up, but anywhere where it's kind of ambiguous how you're going to run it, or it's going to be something that gets moved around a lot, you're going to want to move to a flexible cable style. And so we're going to buy a bunch of these to make our end connections. The last thing I have in here, I have plastic hanger strap, and this is going to help me suspend these on the wall. So they're going to be hanging from these straps that I put up, and I'm going to screw them onto my concrete walls. I've got some hinges. These hinges are going to be for the swing out boom arm I'm going to make for the vacuum line that's going to go to the table saw in the middle of the workspace. So that's here. I've got a couple 4-inch hose clamps, and this is in case a connection isn't tight enough and I can feel some air seeping through one of the connections. I will go ahead and clamp them down. And also, I have white duct tape. Now this white duct tape is really just to seal off the connections. I'm making this a somewhat removable system, right? We're never going to be in this space forever, so I want to be able to take this apart later when we eventually move. This duct tape is not only going to help kind of solidify connections, right? Like if this connection right here seems a little loose, right? And the hose clamp won't help, I'll probably wrap this section here with a little bit of white duct tape to make it a little bit bigger, to make the fit just a little bit tighter, and then I'll go around the outside with some duct tape to seal off any of that extra air loss that might be getting through the gaps in this connection. And since it's white, it'll kind of look clean. That was the idea. You can use any duct tape for this. The last thing I have is an end cap. So as this system is being built, I do want to use the system, but as I get more parts and pieces, some of these sections aren't going to be fully utilized. So I'm going to cap them off and make sure that I don't have extra ports open where I don't need them as the system builds and grows. So I think that's all you need to know for supplies. Let's get back to work and make that half wall. I've got to stop for now just because I've run out of materials, but let's review what I've gotten done so far. So I've got a 2x4 wall that's coming out at a 90 degree here, and I'm going to make another 2x4 wall here, and that'll give me a nice surface to mount all of these, the motor as well as the cyclone, up and away in this area. And then we have the majority of our piping already done across the top and strapped in pretty level across. So we have the first bend that goes around this column, the first Y elbow that goes up, that is capped off for now, but that's going to be the swing arm that comes out for the table saw in the middle of the workshop. Then we have a Y elbow going down, that is going to be our chop saw station. And then I have another Y elbow over there, which is going to come down over to the soldering station as well as the floor sweep at the bottom. I've also got a Y elbow there in case I want to eventually extend this whole system around to the other side on the other wall. And so we'll see if we ever get there, but for now this is pretty much what I wanted to achieve and I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll get some more materials and we'll keep going. All right, it's the next day here and we are going to continue work on our desk collection system. I got some more lumber, so I'm going to start with this back wall that we're going to frame out with 2x4 and some plywood. And I'm actually going to replace this plywood here that I put up last night and make that a full sheet since I went and bought one. So let's get going. Okay, the wall is built. I've got a French cleat system mounted. I just picked a random height just to try something out. And I've got the main lower motor mounted to a piece of plywood with the French cleat. I had to add these pieces here just to create some separation because of the bolts in the back here. But let's see if this holds. Okay, another quick update for you on this dust collector. I was using duct tape to fill in the gaps here on this 4-inch, I guess, port, so I could connect this extension to somehow connect up here. And then I realized I'm pretty sure there are ready-made adapters for this. So I went to my local Rockler and got this for, I think, $11. A little pricey for an adapter, but what it does is this should connect to the outside of my 4-inch pipe. Okay, it's a little loose, so we'll probably use duct tape on this section here, but that allows me to use this flexible pipe here. That'll go right in like that. This will go in like this. I'll use hose clamps here and here, and now I can get an appropriately sized piece right here, and all my bends are now, I guess, uniform, something like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this set up, locked in, and I'll be able to actually pull or have suction from the rest of my system here out to here. Well, I've just capped off and taped off all the ducting so that there is essentially as least amount of air loss as possible, I guess in the vacuum lines, and it's working pretty decently. I got a few cuts and stuff literally flew out that hole straight across the warehouse, so that was pretty cool. So I think it works fine. The next thing I have to do is get this, our cyclone collector, mounted. Now, I have some other parts coming, right? I have a Oneida super dust collector cyclone thing for the bottom and a MERV filter for the top. But until those things arrive, I'm gonna mount the original parts that came with this system. So in order to do that, I'm gonna use some, I guess, 3/4 plywood to create a base for this. And it's gonna have a French cleat attachment, so it'll fit pretty much right here. And it'll slide a little bit back and forth, and that'll give me the adjustability to get this 6-inch port onto this 6-inch port. It'll just slide in just like that. That'll be pretty awesome. And then I'll reattach my original bag. I'll reattach my original 10 micron dust collector bin, and then we'll start cutting stuff and see how well this works. So let's get to work on this tray thing that I have to make. let's call this part one of my dust collection system because, well, it seems like a good stopping point. I've got the OEM or the regular filter bag on top and the plastic capture bag on the bottom, again, while I wait for supplies. But everything else has been hooked up. I've got everything closed off. And now let's see how it works. The amount of suction power coming from that tube, for whatever reason, is pretty low. It's going from a 4-inch to a 2.5 inch or a 2 1/4, and it really should be pulling much more air, but it's not. Could be the tubing that I'm using, I'm not exactly sure. But when I open up the 4-inch over there, a huge amount of air and debris just started flowing through at a much higher volume. Now, I'm not like I don't know much about aerodynamics or whatever this science is, but that tells me at least something is wrong. Either with maybe the tubing, the way I've kind of done the reducers, I'm not sure. So we shall see. Let's wait till the rest of my parts come in. All of my blast gates are here so I can install those, and maybe that'll help me understand what's going on. I think what you guys really want to see is me clean up this giant mess that I've made in this office. This is ridiculous. I don't recall ever having worked in these conditions before, just with crap everywhere. So cue the music and we'll do a time lapse and just cleanse. All right. I think that is enough for one episode, and we'll call that part one. Part two will be the rest of our components, as well as the swing arm that I'm going to put against the wall that's going to come out for table saw based work with its own set of pipes and wastegate. So I think that's it for today. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments. This is totally an imperfect system. Also, if you were thinking about getting this Central Machinery 2 horsepower system just stock for $300 from Harbor Freight, because it used band clamps, it's not a very tight seal. So as I'm running this thing, this bag is there's just dust just coming out of it like crazy. So definitely not the best system standalone, and that's why we're doing those stage 2 upgrades. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.